If you're about to put real money behind app growth, the platform choice can burn you early. That is true if you're an indie developer. It is also true if you're on a larger growth team staring at CPI, CPA, and ROAS across Google, Meta, and TikTok every day. For an indie developer, the failure mode is simple. Pick a platform too early, the campaign never really learns, and the budget is gone. Inside a larger team, it gets weirder. Same app, same conversion goal. But Google, Meta, and TikTok can show completely different results, and the team still is not sure why. For context, I've spent most of the past 7 years in app growth. Across Google, Meta, and TikTok, I've been involved in roughly $50 million of ad spend. The same questions keep coming up in real campaigns. Why can one Google creative keep working for 6 months while a TikTok creative starts fading after 3 days? Why can TikTok make the CPI look great and then look much shakier once you check payment, application, or subscription events? And why can the same ad clear Google and Meta, then keep getting stuck in TikTok review? All of that points to the real decision. For your app, do you start with Google, Meta, or TikTok? The goal is not a generic platform ranking. You should be able to tell which platform fits your app, why quality differs, and whether the bottleneck is traffic, attribution, creative, or optimization strategy. Save this video for later. When you start building campaigns or analyzing performance, you can come back and use it as a checklist. And if you follow the world of app growth, subscribe to the channel. I'll keep covering MMP, attribution, creative testing, campaign structure, scaling budgets, and the practical differences between Google, Meta, and TikTok. Okay, let's start with the 3 differences you can see most clearly. 1. The 3 most obvious differences. TikTok's deeper conversions are more volatile. Let's say you're promoting a legal advice agent and your goal is to get users to pay for a consultation. Or maybe you're promoting an AI tool and you need users to complete a subscription. Google and Meta usually deliver more stable, deep conversion rates. On TikTok, CPI or registration cost can look excellent at first. But once you follow the funnel down to payments, applications, and subscriptions, the conversion rate can fluctuate much more. A campaign may look great during its first few days. Then as soon as you increase the budget, the quality of the users coming through the back end starts to drop. That pattern is very common on TikTok. 2, creative lifespan is very different across the 3 platforms. A creative might run on Google for 6 months, or even continue generating conversions a year later. On TikTok, creative fatigue comes much faster. An average creative may only run steadily for a few days. Even a very strong creative might only last a week. Meta generally sits somewhere in the middle, so an independent developer has to ask, can I keep producing videos consistently? A larger company needs something more systematic, a reliable process for producing, testing, and refreshing creatives. 3. TikTok has stricter creative review. Based on my experience running campaigns, TikTok is often the strictest and also the least predictable of the 3 platforms when it comes to ad review. Captions, voiceovers, visuals, and even vague wording can trigger a rejection. That directly affects your budget. Even if the campaign is performing well, you cannot keep scaling if your creative supply cannot keep up or your new creatives cannot get approved. 2. Why does the same app produce different results? All of these patterns point to one central idea. Google, Meta, and TikTok understand users in different ways. Let's start with a basic question. How does a platform decide which ad to show to which person? A simple framework is Google is better at identifying user intent. Meta is better at understanding identity, interests, and long-term behavior. TikTok is better at understanding content and what a user is likely to react to right now. That difference affects user quality, how the model optimizes, creative lifespan, the way you scale, and even how ads are reviewed. So let's start with audience targeting and break down step by step why the same app can perform so differently across the 3 platforms. How does a platform decide whether a user is valuable? Earlier, I mentioned that TikTok's deep conversions can be more volatile. I don't think we can simply blame TikTok users for that. Another possible explanation is that TikTok's estimate of a user's probability of converting may not yet be as stable as Google's or Meta's. That sounds abstract, so let's use an example. Imagine that we are promoting a credit card app, and our goal is to get users to submit a credit card application. Every time a platform is about to show an ad, it is essentially trying to answer 2 questions. The first question is, after seeing this creative, how likely is this user to click? That is PCTR. the predicted click-through rate. For example, if the platform estimates that 50 people will click after 1,000 impressions, the predicted CTR, or PCTR, is 5%. The second question is, of those 50 people who click, how many will eventually submit a credit card application? That is PCVR, the predicted conversion rate. If the platform estimates that around 5 of those 50 people will submit an application, then the PCVR is 10%. Now suppose the advertiser is willing to pay $10 for every successful application. We can calculate it like this: 1,000 impressions, an estimated 50 clicks, an estimated 5 applications, $10 in value per application. The platform would estimate that those 1,000 impressions could generate $50 in advertising value. That is the simplest way to understand ECPM. How much advertising value does the platform expect to generate from every 1,000 impressions? The simplified formula is ECPM is roughly 1,000 times PCTR times PCVR times bid. So every ad platform is solving 2 prediction problems all day long. Will this person click? And after clicking, will they become the kind of user the advertiser actually wants? The first question is relatively easy. Whether someone clicked happens inside Google, Meta, or TikTok, so the platform can see it directly. The second question is much harder. After clicking, the user leaves the ad platform, goes to the App Store, downloads the app, and may then register, pay, or submit a credit card application. Those actions happen inside the app, where the ad platform cannot see them directly. So the platform needs someone to come back and tell it, you showed an ad to this person. Did they eventually convert? That is where an attribution platform comes in. Third-party attribution, AppsFlyer and Adjust as the boxing referee. If you are an independent developer, this section helps explain why a platform needs a certain amount of budget and conversion volume before it can get through the learning phase. If you manage acquisition at a larger company, it helps you figure out whether an unstable campaign is suffering from bidding, postback, or insufficient training data. Imagine the entire advertising market as a boxing ring. Google, Meta, and TikTok are the fighters in the ring. AppsFlyer or Adjust is the referee. A user might first see an ad on TikTok, then click an ad on Meta, and finally download the app through Google. All 3 media platforms may feel that they deserve credit. This conversion should count as mine. The referee makes the decision based on attribution windows, last-click rules, and other attribution logic. If the referee decides that Google brought in the user, it raises Google's hand and tells Google, this conversion belongs to you. Under a traditional third-party attribution model, each media platform mainly receives the conversions that the referee assigns to it. If the referee does not assign the user to TikTok, TikTok usually does not receive that positive conversion signal. That creates a problem. TikTok may have influenced the user earlier in the journey, but because the last click happened on another platform, the credit goes somewhere else. TikTok does not receive that conversion signal, so its model has a much harder time learning from that user. What changes with self-attribution? Under a self-attribution model, the media platforms start getting their own game footage. When a registration, payment, or application happens inside the app, the event can be sent back to Google or Meta if the advertiser has authorized the data sharing and enabled full postbacks. After Google or Meta receives the event, the platform checks its own records. Did this user see my ad? Did they click my ad? How long ago did that happen? Which creative and which campaign were involved? The platform can then use its own impression and click records to decide whether the conversion was related to its advertising. AppsFlyer or Adjust still handles the final cross-channel attribution, acting as the official referee, but Google and Meta can use their own game footage to see a more complete set of conversion feedback. The biggest difference can be summarized like this. Third-party attribution tells a platform which conversions the referee finally awarded to it. Self-attribution gives the platform a chance to see more conversion events and match them against its own impression and click records. The more answers a platform can see, the easier it becomes to train its PCVR model. Over time, it can learn what kinds of people are more likely to register after clicking, who is more likely to apply for a credit card, and who is more likely to become a high-value user. The differences between MMP attribution, SAN self-attribution, SKAN, and the numbers you see in each media platform's dashboard could easily fill an entire video. If you often see AppsFlyer data and media platform data failing to match, follow the channel. I'll break down this data flow in a separate episode. Why can TikTok be more volatile? Google and Meta started using self-attribution systems relatively early. Over time, they trained their conversion prediction models with a large amount of postback data from advertisers. TikTok historically relied more heavily on the traditional third-party attribution model. If a conversion was ultimately assigned to another media platform, TikTok received relatively limited feedback. TikTok began pushing SAN self-attribution in 2023, and it did not fully stop supporting the older MMP integrations until 2025. In other words, TikTok has had less time to build and mature this self-attributed conversion data system. One possible result is that TikTok is very good at predicting whether someone will watch a video to the end, like it, or click an ad. But at deeper stages, registration, payment, credit approval, or credit card application, its PCVR estimates may still be less stable across different user groups. When PCVR is not estimated accurately, ECPM can also become distorted. The platform may send more traffic to people who are very likely to click, but much less likely to complete the final conversion. That is why you may see CPI and registration costs look very good on TikTok, while application rate, payment rate, and overall user quality become more volatile further down the funnel. Of course, self-attribution is only one possible explanation. Media platform signals. What clues does each platform use to find users? Attribution answers one question: how much conversion feedback can the platform receive? The next question is, once the platform has that feedback, what signals does it use to find the next user? This comes down to the kinds of user signals each platform has access to. TikTok's strongest signals mainly come from content interests and video behavior. What does a user usually watch? Which videos do they spend time on? Do they finish the video, like it, comment, share it, or watch it more than once? From these behaviors, TikTok is very good at answering what does this person want to watch right now and what kind of video is likely to hold their attention. For e-commerce advertisers, those signals can be extremely valuable. If someone has recently been watching running shoe reviews, marathon training, and sports gear, that person may also be more likely to buy running shoes. If someone frequently watches makeup tutorials, product reviews, and skincare content, a beauty advertiser can often find that person through content interests. In these cases, the content a user enjoys and the product they may eventually buy are relatively close to each other. That is why TikTok can support very large advertising budgets in e-commerce, gaming, and other visually driven consumer categories. But the situation changes when you move into credit cards, loans, insurance, legal advice, or B2B tools. Imagine two users. They both like watching soccer, comedy clips, short dramas, and unusual stories from around the world. Based on their video behavior, they may look almost identical. But one of them may have a stable income and a real need for a credit card. The other may simply enjoy scrolling and never complete an application after clicking. TikTok can identify that both users like soccer. But it is much harder to tell from video behavior alone who is more likely to get approved for a credit card, who is willing to pay for legal advice, or who could become a high-value long-term customer. So the real question is, how closely is the quality of your target user connected to the content they consume? If the relationship is strong, TikTok's content signals can work extremely well. If the relationship is weak, the platform needs more deep conversion data before it can reliably separate high-quality users from low-quality users. For many finance, legal, productivity, and B2B products, the things that determine user quality are not necessarily visible in the videos someone watches. In those cases, relying mainly on video behavior, combined with a relatively limited number of deep conversions, does make TikTok's job harder. What does this lead to? The first result is that TikTok's ability to segment users by quality may be less stable than Google's or Meta's. The platform can find a large number of people who are willing to watch and click. But after they click, the model may still have to guess whether they will apply, pay, or pass an approval process. As long as PCVR is not estimated accurately, campaign performance is more likely to fluctuate. Today, the system may find a group of high-quality users and deliver excellent results. Tomorrow, as you scale, the traffic may move into another group of people who love to click but convert poorly further down the funnel. That is why TikTok often shows this pattern. The front-end CPI looks great, but back-end quality is unstable. The campaign performs well for the first few days, and then conversion rate drops as soon as the budget increases. Is there an opportunity here? There may be a window on the other side of this problem. If the platform cannot yet identify high-value users accurately, their ECPM may not have been fully bid up. If the advertiser can use creative to proactively filter for people with real intent, and then quickly train the model with registration, application, approval, and payment data, There may be an opportunity to acquire a group of high-quality users at a relatively low cost, but there is a high bar. The creative has to do some of the targeting. On Google, a user may already be searching for the best credit card for travel. Their intent is relatively clear. The ad mainly needs to present the right product. On TikTok, the user may be watching soccer or a short drama. The ad first has to make them stop scrolling, then get the right person interested, while filtering out as many low-quality clicks as possible. So, on TikTok, the creative has to attract attention and qualify the user at the same time. That is why creative requirements are so high on TikTok. You need to keep testing which hooks attract people with real intent, which information filters out low-quality clicks early, which situations help users recognize that they have a problem your product can solve, which wording moves someone from "I'm interested" to "I'm ready to take action." If TikTok becomes better at identifying high-quality users in the future, their eCPM will naturally become more expensive, and this potential low-cost window will gradually shrink. 3. Why does TikTok demand the most from creative? If you are an independent developer, this section may determine whether TikTok is the right platform for you at your current stage. If you manage acquisition at a larger company, it also explains why TikTok sometimes refuses to spend more budget even when the problem has nothing to do with your bid or your account. Based on my experience, TikTok has the highest demand for a steady supply of creatives among the 3 platforms. Many creatives start to decline just 3 or 4 days after launch. If a creative can run steadily for a full week, that is already a relatively long lifespan in many categories. Creative fatigue often shows up as impressions start to fall, CPM gradually rises, click-through rate and conversion rate decline, an ad group that used to spend budget suddenly stops delivering. Why do TikTok creatives wear out so quickly? You also need to understand TikTok's content recommendation logic. Think about what you expect to see every time you open TikTok. Usually, it is a video you have not seen before, a new joke, a new trend, or a creator you do not recognize. You may occasionally see a video from several months ago, but the overall experience is built around one promise. Keep scrolling. There is always something new on the next screen. TikTok's For You feed actively avoids showing repetitive content. It keeps introducing new creators, new sounds, and different types of videos. The platform wants users to feel that every time they open the app or refresh the feed, they will see something different. That recommendation system also encourages creators to keep publishing. If a creator stops posting for a long time, the platform has fewer new videos to test and recommend. On the other hand, TikTok can keep the feed fresh only when a large number of creators keep producing new content. Ads appear in that same stream. Even though ads have their own auction and delivery system, they still compete for attention with short dramas, soccer videos, comedy clips, creator content, and whatever else is trending. The first time a user sees an ad, it may feel interesting. The second time, they may still watch for a few seconds. By the 3rd or 4th time they see something very similar, the novelty drops quickly and they swipe away. As more people swipe away, the creative's click-through rate, video completion rate, and conversion rate all decline. The platform gradually reduces distribution. So, TikTok creative fatigue is not only caused by audience saturation or rising frequency, it is also connected to the platform's overall demand for fresh content. TikTok needs new content. Users expect new content. Advertisers naturally need to keep supplying new creatives. Why can older YouTube videos still get traffic? YouTube's content ecosystem works differently. Many users go to YouTube through search, the homepage, or related videos to find a specific topic. For example, if you search for how to set up a Google app campaign today, YouTube may recommend a video that was published 2 years ago. As long as the video is still useful and the viewing experience is good, it can keep receiving traffic. When YouTube explains its recommendation system, it has even used old sports game videos as an example. The goal is to find the right audience for every valuable piece of content inside a huge video library. YouTube recommendation system explanation. That is why YouTube content is more likely to build long-term value. A tutorial, review, or educational video may still be discovered through search and recommendations months or even years after it was published. TikTok content depends more on current interests, current presentation styles, and immediate feedback. The freshness of a creative usually wears out faster. This explains why. Some creatives on Google and YouTube can keep running for months. A TikTok creative may start declining after 3 or 4 days. In many categories, a TikTok creative that runs steadily for a week is already considered long-lived. So on TikTok, the thing that determines whether you can keep scaling is often not a single winning creative. More important is this: can your team keep producing new hooks, new situations, and new ways of presenting the same idea. That is why I say that on TikTok, creative output is part of media buying capability. Why are gaming, e-commerce, and short drama advertisers often better at scaling on TikTok? Advertisers in gaming, e-commerce, and short dramas have usually turned creative production into an industrialized process. They continuously test different hooks for the first 3 seconds, different people and situations, different orders for presenting the product benefits, different voiceovers, captions, and editing rhythms, dozens of variations on the same creative idea. Once a creative starts working, they break it down, learn from it, and quickly produce new versions. So their advantage is not only budget, it is also the speed at which they can supply new creatives. By comparison, many finance, productivity, legal advice, and traditional app teams cannot produce content at that pace. Their typical creative may look like this. The product logo appears. The video shows a credit limit or a feature, then it records a few app screens and ends with "download now." There is no clear hook, no real-life situation, and no explanation of why the user needs the product right now. That kind of creative may still convert on Google or Meta because the platform can rely more on intent and audience signals. On TikTok, it has to enter the user's feed and compete with a large amount of native content. It may be swiped away in the first 2 seconds. That is the difficult part of TikTok. You need strong creative capability to get enough traffic, and you need enough traffic for the model to learn who your high-quality users are. Many advertisers get stuck in that loop. The creative is not strong enough, so the campaign cannot scale. The campaign does not have enough volume, so there are not enough deep conversion samples. The model cannot learn accurately, so user quality keeps fluctuating. Why is creative also a form of targeting? Earlier, I mentioned that TikTok's ability to segment deep user quality may be less stable than Google's or Meta's. That means the creative has to do some of the filtering. Let's use the same credit card app as an example. If the creative only says, high credit limits, fast approval, tap to download, it may attract a large number of people who like low-friction, quick applications. But those people may not be the high-quality users the advertiser really wants. Now imagine using a more specific situation. If you travel often, how do you choose a credit card with airport benefits, overseas cashback, and travel insurance? This creative may attract a smaller audience, but the need is clearer, and the downstream quality may be better. So a TikTok creative needs to do 3 things. 1, make the user stop scrolling. 2, help the user realize they have a need. 3, filter for the people who are genuinely likely to convert. That is what makes TikTok creative so difficult. It needs to generate traffic and qualify users at the same time. Why might there be an opportunity? Looking at it from another angle, if TikTok's ability to identify high-quality users is not fully mature yet, advertisers may have a window of opportunity. If the platform still cannot consistently distinguish users with different levels of value, the eCPM of some high-quality users may not have been fully bid up. If you create a truly winning creative that attracts people with genuine intent, and then use registration, payment, application, and approval data to train the model quickly, you may be able to acquire a group of high-quality users at a relatively low cost. Of course, that opportunity comes with a very high creative bar. You need to keep testing new hooks and new situations, and you also need to make sure those new creatives can pass review. Based on my experience, TikTok's creative review is also the strictest and least predictable of the 3 platforms. This is especially true in finance, health, AI, and other sensitive categories. Captions, voiceovers, promises about results, before and after comparisons, and even a small detail in the visual can trigger a rejection. That means TikTok scaling often runs into 2 ceilings. Winning creatives have very short lifespans. New creatives do not get approved consistently enough. Even if you have the budget, you may not be able to spend it. If TikTok becomes more accurate at identifying high-quality users in the future, the eCPM of those users will naturally become more expensive. At the current stage, there may still be a low-cost window, but only advertisers with strong creative capabilities are likely to capture it. That is why I say, on TikTok, the creative itself is targeting, and creative output itself is media buying capability. If you want to see me break down TikTok creative in more detail, including how to design the first 3-second hook, the situation, the value proposition, and the CTA, follow the channel. I'll cover creative testing and production workflows in a separate episode. Puttrue, Google captures existing demand, Meta and TikTok create demand, Now let's look at the difference between the three platforms from another angle. Google has more search signals and stronger signals of active intent. Meta and TikTok rely more heavily on recommendation systems. That difference affects why users see your ads, and it also affects how you should make your creatives. Let's continue with the legal advice agent app as an example. Most people do not actively look for a legal advisor when they do not have a legal problem. The need appears suddenly when they face a contract dispute, an employment issue, or another specific situation. So, what behavior most clearly shows that someone needs legal advice right now? The answer is search. When a user searches Google for online legal advice, what should I do about a labor contract dispute? How do I deal with a company that has not paid my wages? AI legal advisor. The search itself expresses very strong intent. The user already knows there is a problem and they are actively looking for a solution. In that situation, Google's job is relatively simple. Find the person who is already searching for a solution and show them the right product. That is why Google is often able to provide a relatively strong conversion floor for legal advice, B2B software, productivity tools, repair services, and apps that solve clearly defined problems. One important detail: Google App Campaign traffic can also reach Google Play, YouTube, Discover, and display placements. But one of Google's biggest advantages is still its ability to use search and product ecosystem signals to understand what problem a user may be trying to solve right now. What kind of environment do Meta and TikTok create? When people open Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok, they usually are not thinking, I want to download a legal advice app. They may simply want to see what their friends are doing, watch short videos for a while, watch soccer, news, or comedy, kill 10 minutes. The ad is recommended to them in the middle of that experience. So users on Meta and TikTok often have not clearly realized that they need the product yet. That is when the creative has to create a situation first. For a legal advice agent, the creative could start with a specific problem. My boss suddenly asked me to sign this resignation agreement. Should I sign it? Or, if a contract contains these three clauses, don't sign it yet. After seeing that, the user may think, I've had this problem before, or I might need a tool like this in the future. The creative first puts a potential problem in front of the user, helps them recognize the need, and only then introduces the product. So a Google creative is more like an answer to a problem that already exists. A Meta or TikTok creative has to help the user discover the problem first, and then introduce the solution. What is the difference between the two types of creative? Let's stay with the legal advice agent example. A Google creative can say something direct. Get legal advice online 24/7, upload a contract and get a fast AI analysis. That works because the user is already looking for a similar service. A Meta or TikTok creative needs a stronger sense of situation. Your boss suddenly asks you to sign this agreement. Wait, don't sign it yet. Take a photo and upload it. Let AI check whether there are any risks. The first type of creative focuses on what the product can do. The second type needs to grab attention, create a recognizable situation, and then introduce the product. That is why Meta and TikTok usually demand more from creative. The creative has to complete an entire persuasion process. 1. Grab attention. 2. Describe a real problem. 3. Help the user see themselves in the situation. 4. Show how the product solves it. 5. Present a believable outcome. 6. Move the user toward installing or paying. What does this mean for an independent developer? If your product is naturally easy to discover through content, and you can keep producing videos consistently, you should test Meta and TikTok more seriously. Examples include games, e-commerce, short dramas, fitness, image and video generation, AI products with a clear visual payoff. If your product is naturally easy to discover through content, and you can keep producing videos consistently, you should test Meta and TikTok more seriously. Examples include games, e-commerce, short dramas, fitness, image and video generation, AI products with a clear visual payoff. What does this mean for a larger company? A larger company can usually give the three platforms different roles. Google captures demand that already exists and provides a relatively stable base of conversions. Meta and TikTok reach people who are not actively searching yet, but may be persuaded by a situation or a piece of content. So the question for a larger company often changes from which platform should we choose to how much existing demand should Google capture, how much new demand should Meta and TikTok create, what kinds of creative should each platform use, how do we use unified attribution to decide where the budget should go. That is what I'll continue covering in future episodes. More content and collaboration. If you are interested in app acquisition, creative testing, attribution, and budget strategy, follow the channel. If your team is working on overseas app growth and needs Google, Meta, or TikTok media buying strategy, account diagnostics, or managed acquisition, you can find me through the contact information in the video description.